My beloved child, what you just overcame wasn't ordinary, it was a hidden test from heaven. You must understand the urgency of what just happened. This wasn't a coincidence or a season of random difficulty, it was a carefully measured test sent straight from the throne of heaven, designed to reveal the truth of your heart, your trust, and your loyalty when no one else was watching. While many around you thought you were simply struggling through another ordinary hardship, I had placed divine eyes upon you, evaluating not what you did in public but what you whispered in private. Every moment you kept going when your mind screamed to stop was a divine act of worship. You didn't know the weight of what you were passing through because I purposely hid it from you. Had you known how crucial this moment was, the pressure might have broken you. So instead, I allowed you to face what felt ordinary with extraordinary spiritual consequences. My angels recorded every step, and even when no applause followed your decision, the heavens stood still to witness your faith. You didn't realize it then, but all of heaven was holding its breath to see what choice you'd make in the silence. And now, because you chose to trust instead of retreat, to believe instead of complain, to worship when it felt dry, and to love when you felt abandoned, heaven has issued a verdict. You passed, and very few ever pass what you just endured. That's why this message is reaching you now. Only the rare ones receive it. Only those marked by fire, battle-tested in silence, and found pure in intention are given this access. You have stepped into the next realm not because you forced your way in, but because your spirit proved you belonged there. You didn't even know you were on trial, but your endurance has now summoned a response from my spirit that cannot be reversed. I am pulling back the veil, child. The hidden has now become visible. What was closed is being unlocked because you did what others couldn't, and you did it without recognition, without confirmation, without answers. And that is exactly what made you ready. This next phase of your life isn't a reward, it's an entrusting. And it begins now. When they left you behind and whispered that you were wasting your time, when they mocked your hope and rolled their eyes at your belief, when they shook their heads at your decisions because they didn't make sense to the natural world, you didn't flinch. You didn't give in to their conclusions or let their opinions alter your obedience. You didn't run to prove them wrong. You stayed to prove me right. That endurance, that sacred persistence is not something that can be learned in a classroom or inherited from a bloodline. It is forged in pain. And you let it grow in silence. While others demanded instant results and left when they saw nothing changing, you chose to remain planted even when the soil felt dry and the sun was hidden behind clouds. You kept watering the word I gave you with tears. You continued speaking life into promises that looked dead. I saw it all, child. I heard every whispered yes in the dark. Your endurance became your offering. It became the incense that rose to heaven and moved my heart in ways no public platform ever could. Because you refused to walk away when it hurt, I am now walking toward you with what only I can give. And I need you to grasp how rare this truly is. So many start strong and fall away in the middle. So many shout when the fire begins, but whisper excuses when it stays longer than expected. You, however, stayed in the flames. You didn't ask me to rescue you, you asked me to refine you. And I did. This is why the oil that is about to flow from your life will be unlike anything you've seen. Because it wasn't borrowed, it was bought. Bought with tears. Bought with loneliness. Bought with hours of holding on to what I said, even when the world screamed to let go. I want you to know that your endurance wasn't invisible to me. Every time you resisted the urge to give up, you gave me room to move. And now I'm about to move in ways that will leave even your doubters speechless. Every tear you shed when no one was around has not been ignored or overlooked. I observed every silent breakdown, every muffled cry into your pillow, every moment your hands trembled under the pressure of continuing forward. Not once did you see me turn away. I was there, near you, feeling what you felt, holding your spirit so it wouldn't collapse beneath the unseen weight. Though the world slept, I stood guard over your soul. You could have surrendered. You could have justified quitting. You could have chosen the easy path and allowed despair to dictate your direction. But instead, you kept walking. You whispered prayers even when your heart questioned if I was listening. That internal struggle, that private warfare, that secret pain, it all became part of a sacred altar. You laid your emotions down like offerings, one drop at a time. And those moments hidden from everyone else became the turning point in the realm of eternity. I didn't need loud declarations from you. Your perseverance in solitude was louder than any shout. While others built their faith on what they could measure, you built yours on trust that had no guarantee. You stood when it felt safer to fall. You spoke life even when everything around you mirrored death. And you refused to let go of my hand, even when it felt like you were grasping at emptiness. That kind of resilience isn't common. That kind of faith isn't natural. That kind of spirit only arises in those I have chosen to lead the next wave of my glory. You didn't know you were being watched, but you were. Angels stood beside you in those dark rooms. The atmosphere shifted every time you whispered my name through sobs. Demons were silenced not by your strength, but by your surrender. You didn't shout at them, you outlasted them. That is why the tide is turning now. The very area of your life where you wept in silence is about to erupt with a flood of divine change. What was barren is being planted with promises. Where you once mourned, you will now marvel. I'm not giving you this out of pity, I'm releasing it because your heart proved ready. While the world measures progress by noise and numbers, I have been measuring it by purity and perseverance. You held on when you had no timeline. You continued when others moved on. And now, everything you endured behind the curtain is about to be displayed on the stage of my purpose. I for your fame, but for my name. This is the moment I begin reversing everything that looked like it would never be restored. It starts now, in the exact place where you once sat in silence, wondering if I remembered you. Yes, I do. I never forgot, not a second. I saw the war inside your soul when circumstances screamed that there was no point in going on. Your heart ached under the weight of what felt like silence, and yet something inside you still chose me. You were surrounded by voices internal and external that begged you to walk away, to stop believing, to protect yourself from disappointment by no longer hoping. But even then, when hope felt dangerous, you clung to it not blindly, but bravely. That inner conflict between fear and faith, between logic and obedience, between self-preservation and surrender was the battlefield of your breakthrough. And child, you didn't even realize you were standing in the middle of a test few ever survive. You held my word closer than your feelings. You leaned on what I said even when what you saw looked opposite. You silenced the panic with worship. You crushed anxiety not by being fearless, but by choosing me in the presence of it. That is what separates the rare ones from the many. You didn't follow me because it felt good, you followed me because you knew I was good. And that decision, made in your weakest moment, just shifted the landscape of your destiny. Because in that hour, you gave me your complete permission to take you where few are willing to go. I couldn't entrust the next level to someone who would quit halfway through. But you, my child, proved with your actions that you're ready. I've now positioned you for something eternal, something that can't be taken, shaken, or stolen because you passed the test that was never announced. That unspoken moment of alignment, where your pain met my purpose and you still said, I'll go with you, is what tore open the heavens. You didn't need signs. You didn't need comfort. You didn't ask for applause. You gave me your will when everything in you wanted relief. That is the greatest offering. And now the atmosphere around you has begun to shift because that type of trust draws down resources others will never access. You touched me not with performance but with faith. And now, I will respond with fulfillment not because of your perfection, but because of your consistency. You remained in place when everything tried to push you away. So now, child, prepare because the door is opening from the other side, and you will not have to force it. You trusted when it was hardest, and now I move when it's least expected. You stood in that place where clarity was absent, where your questions multiplied but solutions were nowhere in sight, and still you did not allow your loyalty to be conditioned by comfort. You weren't given explanations, yet you chose allegiance. You didn't hear confirmations, yet you walked forward. That kind of posture cannot be fabricated. It is the posture of a soul anchored in love, not results. I watched you wrestle with uncertainty, not once, but over and over again. You asked me if I had heard you, and though I did not always respond the way you hoped, you didn't walk away in bitterness. You brought me your confusion, but you never withdrew your devotion. You trusted me as your shepherd even when I led you through terrain that didn't make sense. That is what caught heaven's attention. The unseen part of your faith, your unwavering loyalty in the fog, that's what weighed more than gold. You did not follow me for blessings. You did not remain close for visibility. You followed because you loved me, and you refused to let your circumstances dictate that relationship. That choice, repeated quietly, consistently, even tearfully, is now echoing through dimensions you've never touched before. Others demanded miracles before offering their hearts, but you gave me your heart without demanding anything in return. That is why I am opening what no man can shut. You showed me that you're not here for what your eyes can receive, but for what your spirit can become. While others walked away the moment the signs disappeared, you stayed in the quiet, in the mystery, in the ache. And by staying, you've now unlocked a level of revelation and responsibility that I only give to those I can trust. You kept your posture right when your feelings were in turmoil. You guarded your attitude when your understanding was clouded. You did not manipulate me with threats, nor attempt to negotiate with worship that came from desperation. Instead, you chose to simply love me even when your prayers were met with delay. And that love, pure, persistent, powerful, has just qualified you for things far beyond what you imagine. I was never ignoring you. I was observing what you would do with the silence. And child, you honored me with your restraint. You honored me with your honesty. You honored me with your continued surrender. Now the heavens have released a motion that cannot be reversed, and your obedience in the absence of answers will now birth sudden manifestations of promises I hid for this appointed time. What once felt like I was far away will now be replaced with waves of nearness, because you waited not with entitlement, but with endurance. That kind of faith rooted in reverence, unshaken by delay, is what moves my heart and commands the atmosphere to change in your favor. This wasn't just another hardship, it was a divine filter, a sacred line drawn to distinguish those who merely speak of faith from those who live it when nothing makes sense. I orchestrated this challenge not to punish you, but to reveal what couldn't be seen from the surface. I needed to know who would remain when applause faded, when comfort left, when everything stable seemed to vanish. I allowed pressure to increase, not to crush you but to clarify what was truly inside. While many began strong, their loyalty crumbled when conditions shifted. But you, child, you didn't retreat. You didn't let fear dilute your conviction. When things got heavy, you didn't look for an exit, you searched for me. You didn't demand rescue, you looked for my face in the fire. That's why this moment is unlike any before. Because I allowed the heat to rise not to destroy you, but to expose the difference between those who follow me for what I give and those who follow me for who I am. You didn't know this was happening in the spirit, but every step you took was revealing the strength of your surrender. Others watched from the outside and couldn't see what was really being separated inside you. I saw how you navigated that breaking point not with pride, but with persistent humility. You leaned in deeper. You asked for nothing except my will. That purity, that depth is what makes you different. And I want you to understand how rare that is. So many treat obedience like a tool to get results, but you treated it like a gift to honor me. That changes everything. I allowed this trial to draw out of you what comfort could never develop. I needed to pull the shallow out and usher in the solid. You didn't flinch. You didn't fake it. You let me refine every layer until there was nothing left but genuine devotion. Now the line has been drawn in the spirit realm. You crossed it. And I want you to know that only a few ever do. You're not being chosen just because you survived, you're being entrusted because you submitted. I'm not looking for those who simply endure. I'm looking for those who understand the weight of surrender even when it costs everything. You pass not by escaping but by embracing. And that's why what comes next will not resemble anything you've experienced before. This next chapter isn't for the crowd. It's for the remnant. It's for those like you who didn't need a spotlight to stay committed, who didn't need reassurance to remain planted, who didn't need success to keep believing. The test wasn't about what I was doing, it was about what would come out of you. And what came out was worship, integrity, and quiet courage that heaven applauded even when earth misunderstood. That's why I'm about to place something on your life that the ordinary will never comprehend. Because you let me separate the false from the real, I'm about to reveal something the world has never seen. What you just endured was not meant for many. This journey, raw, relentless, hidden, was shaped for hearts that carry something deeper than ambition. You didn't approach this as a task to complete, but as a calling to carry with humility. That is what made the difference. You didn't rush through it trying to find shortcuts. You didn't treat sacred moments casually. You approached each day, each challenge, each silence with reverence, tender, careful, honoring me even when I felt distant. That posture matters. It set you apart in a way that human eyes couldn't identify, but heaven did. While others attempted to manage difficulty by controlling outcomes, you chose to surrender control and magnify my presence above results. And because of that, your spirit became the soil for a harvest that will change lives beyond your own. This wasn't about survival. This wasn't about outlasting difficulty. This was about how you walked through it, how you honored my presence even when nothing around you affirmed that I was near. You didn't harden your heart. You didn't grow entitled. You remained teachable, open, and quiet enough to hear whispers when others demanded thunder. You chose stillness over striving. That's what only a rare few ever do. Many seek to run ahead, but you remained in step, even when my pace was slower than your desire. You honored the timing, the process, the silence, and even the suffering. You didn't treat the season like punishment, you embraced it as purification. And now, that posture has unlocked something weighty, something holy, something set apart. What I am about to release to you is not common because what you gave me wasn't common either. Your reverence created room for something heavier than mere blessings. It prepared you for responsibility. And that matters more than you yet realize. The weight you're about to carry will not be a burden, but it will be sacred. It will require the same posture you've shown me in private. Because what I give to you now must be protected, not just displayed. You didn't walk through fire just to shine, you walked through fire to learn how to handle flames without being consumed. And now, because you've shown me what few have the patience to demonstrate, I am opening realms that will require your continued sensitivity. Do not think this next season will be ordinary. It will carry divine assignments that come without announcement, moments that only someone refined in reverence will recognize and respond to correctly. You've been prepared for this without noise, without stage, without spotlight. And that's what qualifies you to walk where others stumble. What you carry now is rare. So walk forward as one who understands the weight of what's been entrusted. The path may have been difficult, but the way you walked it was holy. And I noticed. You assumed I had stepped back when all went quiet, when the days blurred without direction and the prayers returned without answers. But beloved, I was never gone. I didn't abandon you. I concealed myself not to forsake you, but to watch you. Not to punish, but to witness the content of your trust when clarity was stripped away. That silence wasn't empty, it was intentional. I allowed the stillness to stretch because what I was measuring couldn't be revealed in noise. I wasn't listening to your words, I was studying your reaction. I was observing how you handled the absence of affirmation. Would you still pursue me without reward? Would you still serve without visible confirmation? Would you still seek me when I spoke nothing at all? These were the deeper questions being asked beyond the veil, and you answered them not with speeches, but with consistent devotion. You didn't perform for approval. You didn't shift your loyalty based on response time. Instead, you carried yourself with a maturity that can only be birthed in the unseen chambers of silence. While others grew weary waiting, you leaned in further. You didn't try to fill the quiet with distractions, you endured it with intentional stillness. You know how few are able to do that. The world teaches you to rush, to chase voices, to demand signs. But you resisted that noise. You didn't run toward noise, you ran toward my peace. You chose intimacy over instruction, presence over productivity. And in doing so, you passed a level of trust few ever encounter. In those moments where I seemed absent, you built something weightier than momentum. You built resilience. Not the kind rooted in strategy, but in surrender. And now I can trust you with access others forfeited by panicking too soon. That silence, child, was never void, it was holy ground. It was the hidden furnace in which your spirit was refined. It was where I let everything that could be shaken fall away, so only what was eternal remained. And now, because you endured the stillness without turning your back, I will speak to you with clarity others can no longer hear. I will whisper secrets I could not share before. I will commission you in ways that require quiet strength, the kind that's not loud, but unstoppable. Because you didn't require constant instruction to stay aligned, I now know you're ready to carry revelation without corruption. The silence was not a delay, it was a mirror. It showed me who you were without the noise, and what I saw pleased me deeply. That's why this next season will be marked not by what I remove, but by what I reveal. Everything that felt like loss, delay, confusion, and stripping was never meant to harm you, it was me, shaping you for something that couldn't be carried by who you used to be. If I had answered you too quickly, you would have missed the development required to sustain what's coming next. You asked me for greater things, deeper insight, higher places, and I listened. But with elevation comes weight, and with weight must come structure. So I took you through refining not as a sentence, but as a setup. While you wondered if I was disappointed in you, I was actually investing in you. I was allowing circumstances to prune away the parts of you that couldn't go where you were destined to stand. The misunderstandings, the long nights, the repeated cycles, they were chisels in my hands, forming something stable out of your surrender. You didn't understand it in the moment, but I wasn't trying to make life difficult, I was making you ready. I couldn't let what was temporary interfere with what was eternal. You thought you were being overlooked, but in truth, I was marking you for what others never had the patience to receive. There are heights I reserved only for those who will not faint in the valley, and you proved yourself not by striving, but by remaining still under my hand. You kept your attitude pure. You didn't allow resentment to take root. You kept choosing love when offense would have been easier. You stayed soft when life hardened around you. These choices became the foundation beneath your future. I wasn't delaying you, I was deepening you. I was bearing the shallow and building pillars that could carry purpose without crumbling under pressure. You thought I was closing doors, but I was opening dimensions. And now, because of how you allowed me to shape you in secret, I can finally reveal the assignment waiting in the open. This next step isn't a reward for enduring difficulty, it's a reason for it. What you suffered was necessary to train your spirit, sharpen your discernment, and solidify your faith. Had I allowed ease, the call would have felt light, but now, because you understand cost, you'll steward the mantle with honor. I didn't allow you to fall, I allowed you to be fortified. What others mistook as punishment was actually divine positioning. The very area of your life where you experience the greatest pressure will soon become the place where I demonstrate the most glory. Because what broke others made you bold. What silenced others made you steadfast. What confused others made you clear. And that is the sign of someone ready to be used, not temporarily, but continually. You were never being disqualified. You were being distinguished. There comes a moment in every chosen vessel's journey when the only evidence they have is my instruction, not an outcome. Not an open door, not applause, just a word. That's the moment I sent to you. I didn't wrap it in guarantees. I didn't attach it to immediate blessings. I presented you with a crossroads, obey without explanation or retreat into what's comfortable. And child, you obeyed. Not because it was easy, not because it was obvious, but because deep down, your heart whispered, I still believe. You followed when the road was quiet. You obeyed when the map disappeared. You continued when every emotion begged you to wait for signs. That kind of obedience is not common, it is sacred. I had to see if your surrender was conditional. I had to watch how you responded when I didn't provide details. I wanted to know if your yes was rooted in love or convenience. You didn't need validation. You didn't wait for guarantees. You simply stepped forward. And in doing that, you crossed into a place of favor that can only be entered by those who will move without needing proof. While others negotiated with my timing, you gave me your trust freely. A single decision created a shift in the realm of purpose. You proved that I could lead you with whispers and not with wonders, that I could assign you tasks that seemed invisible and you would complete them with joy. I watched you carry out instructions that no one understood, simply because you knew who gave them. I saw you say yes when it cost you relationships, when it tested your patience, when it stretched your endurance. That obedience didn't just move my heart, it moved the boundaries of what I can now release to you. You don't realize it yet, but every time you obeyed me without seeing the outcome, you built a structure in the spirit. And now those structures are ready to be filled. You've created space with your obedience, and I am about to pour into every empty place with divine appointments, favor, and fresh direction. You obeyed in drought, and now the rain is coming. You did obey for the reward, but the reward is coming anyway, because I am a God who honors those who honor me without conditions. What I now place in your hands will not be ordinary, because you did not offer me partial obedience. You followed completely, with open hands and an open heart. And now, child, I can trust you with the treasures that others forfeited by waiting for proof. Because you believed without seeing, you are about to see what others never believe. What happened in secret has now set in motion something irreversible above you. While no crowd noticed, while no platform acknowledged, while you labored in silence, trusting my voice without recognition, heaven was recording every act of surrender. And now, the weight of your unseen choices has pressed against the doors of the supernatural until they've begun to open under the pressure of your faithfulness. You didn't realize the magnitude of your yes behind closed doors, but your quiet alignment has built momentum in the realm that governs all outcomes. Every moment you chose integrity over compromise, every time you walked away from what could have benefited your flesh but would have bruised your spirit, every thought you submitted under the authority of my spirit, those were seeds that struck the foundation of eternity. And child, those seeds are now stirring harvests you never expected. You weren't trying to impress me, you were being authentic. And that's what gave your obedience power. While many tried to produce results by effort, you stayed grounded in surrender. You didn't push ahead to be seen, you bowed lower to be aligned. That posture, that consistent humility, has unlocked a sequence of divine events that no human hand can interfere with. While the world rewards performance, I reward posture. And because yours remained unwavering when no eyes were watching, I am now commanding angels to move on your behalf in places your feet haven't yet stepped. Contracts are being formed in the spirit. Alignments are being orchestrated that you couldn't have arranged on your own. Provision is being assigned to the visions I planted in your heart. Doors are being prepared that match the integrity you've cultivated, not the image others expected, but the internal strength I needed to build before access could be granted. You never knew how close you were to breakthrough because I shielded your eyes while I tested your motives. And now that your heart has proven trustworthy, I'm removing the covering and allowing you to walk through what's been waiting. Understand this. This release is not a coincidence. It is the result of long-term obedience. Others may think things are suddenly changing for you, but we know nothing about this was sudden. This is the manifestation of months, even years, of internal alignment. You stayed consistent when nothing around you confirmed progress. You maintained honor when dishonor would have felt justified. And now, child, what was building behind the veil is about to emerge in the natural. But not just for your benefit, what's coming through you will affect others. Because you chose to obey me in private, I will now use you in ways that shape environments, shift atmospheres, and awaken dormant hearts. This release isn't for popularity, it's for purpose. And you're ready, not because you feel it, but because you proved it in every hidden moment I asked for your trust. There is a realm of unveiling that I reserve only for those who remain with me when the path turns unclear, when the promises look delayed, And when the crowd chooses detours, you chose to stay. You didn't run to comfort or escape to distraction. You stood still when the storm demanded motion. You locked your gaze on me when your surroundings offered easier alternatives. That unwavering decision has now given you access to revelation that was concealed from many. I didn't hide it to be cruel, I hid it to protect it. Only those who walk with me in patience and purity are shown what others merely speculate about. There are mysteries I've longed to share, secrets too deep for surface hearts, truths too weighty for prideful minds. I kept them sealed not because they aren't needed, but because they can only be handled by surrendered vessels. You became one of them, not by striving but by staying. And because you didn't withdraw when the fire intensified, I will now invite you behind the veil, into the deep place where intimacy becomes insight and trust becomes vision. You're not going to just witness change, you're going to carry it. You won't merely observe what I'm doing, you will participate in it. I'm removing the limits placed on you by those who couldn't understand your walk. I'm silencing the voices that tried to define you by their comfort zones. You didn't seek revelation for elevation, you simply wanted to know me more. That purity has now qualified you for divine access. What was once obscure will now come into focus. What seemed distant will feel near. I am unfolding spiritual blueprints that others rushed past because they didn't wait. You waited. You asked me questions others were afraid to speak. You listened for answers others didn't have time to hear. I recorded every moment of your curiosity, every layer of your hunger, every hour of your seeking. And now, I'm unlocking what was hidden, not just to bless you but to build through you. This is more than knowledge. This is spiritual inheritance. This is the place where my spirit begins to show you how heaven thinks, how the Father's heart moves, how divine strategies unfold over generations. You've entered a space where dreams become directives, where discernment grows sharper than pain, where what once confused you now reveals clarity. But remember, this revelation isn't for your status, it's for your stewardship. I'm entrusting you with this because I know you will handle it carefully. You won't misuse what I show you. You won't parade what I whisper. You'll walk with it reverently, as you've walked with me. I am pouring out insight others forfeited by choosing noise over nearness. You did. That's why the next season will feel unfamiliar. It's not because you're lost. It's because you've been lifted. You are now standing in a place where I disclose things reserved for the rare ones. Because you did give up, I'm about to show you what happens when persistence meets promise in the quiet chambers of the faithful. There are layers of my heart, dimensions of my wisdom, that remain veiled not because I withhold them out of severity, but because they are too holy to be placed in hands that do not value what is sacred. What I've reserved for you wasn't denied to others, it was preserved until someone like you proved they would not treat what is holy as common. This is why I delayed certain understandings, why I didn't grant immediate insight when you first cried out for clarity. I wasn't ignoring you, I was guarding the treasure. I've watched many ask but few wait. I've heard prayers lifted in desperation, but seen only a rare few endure the silence that follows without walking away. You beloved, remain. You chose presence over impatience, trust over calculation. And in doing so, you entered through a door most never even recognize exists. You didn't try to earn this. You allowed me to shape you until you fit the weight of what I intended to place upon you. That formation, quiet, deep, unseen, was what opened access. Others would have misused what I am about to place in your spirit. They would have tried to control it, to broadcast it, to manipulate it for validation or influence. But not you. You've proven you're not here for spectacle. You're here for substance. And that's why I can now entrust you with secrets that shape legacies. I'm not offering temporary inspiration. I'm handing you spiritual blueprints that carry generational consequence. What I whisper to you in the stillness will not be fleeting, it will mark regions, unlock chains, and awaken slumbering hearts. You were not passed over in earlier seasons. You were being refined to protect the purity of what I plan to release through you. These revelations are not designed to draw crowds, they are meant to transform atmospheres. and that can only happen through a vessel who knows how to carry fire without being consumed by pride. You don't realize how many have asked me for what I'm now giving you. But they rushed it. They resisted the cost. They abandoned process for platforms. You didn't. You waited. You yielded. You said yes when it didn't benefit you. You listened when the only sound was your own breath and the pulse of my presence surrounding you. That posture has pulled something rare from my storehouse. What you're about to receive can't be taught, it can only be transferred through intimacy. And that is exactly what you have built with me. I did not trust you with this because you figured everything out. I trusted you because you surrendered even when you did. And now, because you passed tests others walked away from, you will carry what many will try to understand, but only you will be able to steward. Guard it. Hold it close. Walk it out with reverence. What I give you next will not be for everyone to handle, but it is for you. They saw your struggle but never discerned the strength it took to endure it. They laughed while you wrestled, mistaking your silence for weakness, interpreting your humility as failure. But what they didn't realize is that while they observed the surface, I was working deeply beneath it, building something eternal within you. I heard every mocking tone, every dismissive word, every conversation where your name was used as a punchline. But I allowed it, not because I agreed with them, but because I was preparing a table they were never meant to sit at. Your response to dishonor has been more powerful than 1,000 sermons. You didn't retaliate. You didn't lower your posture to match their opinions. You stayed focused. You remained rooted. You lifted your eyes to me when it would have been easier to fight for your own defense. That restraint has been a sweet fragrance before my throne. And now, the time is approaching when I will clothe you in something they cannot deny. Not out of vengeance, but out of vindication. I will make it known that I was with you in every moment they misunderstood you. I will cause the very people who ridiculed your obedience to witness the fruit of what they once called foolishness. They will see the doors open. They will watch as the favor flows. They will witness the atmosphere shift around your name, not because you sought recognition, but because I am bringing visibility to what was hidden for too long. The radiance coming upon your life is not for show. It is the result of your steadfastness. It is the outward evidence of the inward construction you allowed me to complete in secret. What once seemed like your quiet defeat will now be revealed as a strategic setup for glory. And make no mistake, this glory will not point to you. It will point to me through you. They will ask how it happened. They will wonder what changed it. And the only explanation will be grace. I am marking you with distinction, not to embarrass others, but to exalt the obedience they refused to carry. Because while they mocked, you ministered to me in the hidden place. While they scoff, you stayed close. And now the distance between what they see and what you carry will be undeniable. I will not allow what I've planted in you to be buried under others' ridicule. The light I'm bringing through your life is unstoppable, not even their disbelief can dim it. So do not shrink back when the glory begins to shine. Do not apologize for the honor I place upon you. You paid the price. You passed the test. And I'm placing something on you now that no mockery can remove. You are about to become the living proof that what I anoint, no opposition can block. You thought time was slipping away, that your prayers had stalled somewhere in the heavens, that others were being answered while your cries lingered in silence. But I was never stalling. I was layering something deeper than a quick breakthrough. I was constructing a foundation strong enough to carry what's coming next. The waiting wasn't wasted. Every hour that passed without resolution was adding depth to your story, strengthening the substance of what you carry, anchoring you beyond what you could comprehend. I wasn't just preparing a blessing, I was preparing you to hold it without it breaking you. Others rushed into moments they weren't ready for and collapsed under the very things they thought would lift them. I didn't let that happen to you. I slowed the pace not to punish but to strengthen. The moments where it felt like nothing was changing were the very moments I was working most deeply in you. I was shaping your endurance. I was stretching your patience. I was embedding unshakable faith where fear once tried to dwell. And now, the very testimony you are about to carry will not be light or forgettable, it will be weighty, because it has been formed through pressure, silence, perseverance, and trust. It will carry a fragrance of my faithfulness that cannot be imitated. It will echo with power not because of performance, but because of the authenticity you allowed to be developed when no one else was watching. I let time pass not to test your tolerance, but to give your spirit the capacity for what others won't be able to handle. Your story will not just speak, it will break chains. It will heal those who thought their process was pointless. It will awaken those who have nearly given up. Because there's something undeniable about a testimony forged in real time, in raw seasons, in valleys where the light was dim and the road was long. That is what I was writing with your life. I didn't rush it because I value what lasts. I didn't accelerate it because depth takes time. You thought it was delayed, but I was multiplying the impact. And now that the pages have been filled, the ink has dried, and your heart has remained steady, I will begin to unveil the power of what was formed. You will speak, and people will listen not because of volume, but because of authenticity. You will stand, and atmospheres will shift not because of charisma, but because of my glory resting on you. Every second that felt overlooked was actually a setup for influence beyond your imagination. You didn't waste the waiting, you worshipped in it. And that, child, has built something that will echo for eternity. The delay you feared was actually my design. There are measures of my presence that carry such intensity, such purity, that without proper preparation, they do not elevate, they overwhelm. I wasn't just setting you up for promotion, I was safeguarding you from collapse. What many see as favor, I see as responsibility. And what I place on a life must be preceded by what I build within it. You asked me for more of me, and I said yes, but before the increase, I needed to construct the structure that could support what you were asking. That's why the fire came. Not to burn you away, but to burn away everything that would have cracked under the pressure of glory. My power is weighty, not because I want to crush you, but because it carries the fullness of my nature, and your spirit had to be fortified so it could carry me without distortion. I wasn't removing you from comfort for no reason, I was training you to breathe in deeper realms. I was stripping away the need for applause, for explanation, for certainty, so that when my glory comes in full, you will not be confused, proud, or shaken. You will stand not as one who stumbled into something too holy to handle, but as one who was shaped for it through process. Refinement was my mercy. Without it, what I'm about to pour out could have consumed you. But now, because you let me dig deep, because you didn't resist the shaping, because you allowed me to expose the fragile and replace it with strength, I can now trust you with the full weight of my presence. I don't anoint casually. I don't release glory where there is no space to receive it. You made room for me not just in your schedule, but in your decisions, in your emotions, in the areas others keep guarded. And that's why what you're about to carry will not look like anything you've seen. It will not fade. It will not fracture. Because it won't be something that rests upon you, it will be something that flows through you. I have refined your motives. I have adjusted your posture. I have taught you to recognize my whisper above the world's volume. All of that was me preparing you to live from a place few ever reach, a place where my presence is not an event, but a home. Others saw the surface and thought you were stalling. But I knew what I was doing beneath it. I wasn't delaying your destiny, I was anchoring it. Because when I dwelled, I transformed. And now, because you endured the process, because you let me rewire your reactions, because you stayed when others fled, you will carry the kind of presence that shifts atmospheres without a word. Not for show, not for stage, but for the ones who are desperate to encounter me through someone who has truly been with me. That's who you are now, not just someone with a testimony, but someone I've prepared as a temple. My glory will not harm you, because now it has a place to rest. It will live through your kindness, your discernment, your intercession, your compassion. This is what I was building all along. And now the refining fire has done its work. I will dwell and I will be seen. You kept wondering why I didn't respond the way you expected. You asked me why the heavens seemed still while you were pouring your soul out. But I want you to see now, child, my silence wasn't neglect. It was nourishment. I quieted everything else so your spirit would stop reaching outward and begin pressing downward into me. Just like a tree extends its roots further into the ground during seasons of drought, I invited you into that same pattern. I let the answers wait so that your spirit could learn how to search me out with no reward in sight. And you did. You didn't just wait. You went deeper. You didn't abandon your pursuit, you let it transform. You moved from seeking what I could do for you to simply desiring me, even when my voice wasn't immediate, even when my presence didn't feel tangible. That's where the depth came from. That's where your unseen growth was happening. In the silence, I watched your trust expand. In the stillness, I saw you exchange your need for control with a hunger to abide. You began to worship not because of what I did, but because of who I am even when I seemed far away. That shift is priceless. I couldn't allow distractions to feed you, so I removed them one by one. I didn't want you depending on affirmations or feelings or signs to survive. I wanted you rooted in my heart. And now, those roots are strong. Now your foundation is unshakable not because storms stopped, but because you learned to anchor yourself in my character, not my activity. Others chase the wind of the moment, but you have found the stillness of my presence. The depth will hold you when nothing else can. It will steady you in the places I'm taking you next. It will give you discernment when the noise rises again. And child, because of how deeply your roots now reach, I will bring forth fruit that astonishes even you. Not shallow success, not temporary breakthroughs, but sustained, supernatural impact. I wasn't punishing you with silence, I was positioning you for permanence. I was teaching you how to hear me in the quiet so you could never be deceived by loud distractions. And now, because you remained, because you let your soul grow in stillness, I will cause your life to rise not quickly and fade, but slowly, steadily, and eternally. You will not be blown over by circumstances. You will not be uprooted by criticism. You will not wither in adversity. Because your life is no longer built on what I give, it's built on who I am. And that is unbreakable. You've been faithful in the hidden places, pressing into me when there was no applause, no visible shift, no outward confirmation. But now comes the moment where what was growing beneath the surface begins to rise into view. You didn't chase results, yet I will now cause results to chase you, not because you pursued them, but because you pursued me. You didn't demand attention, yet I will now draw attention to what I have cultivated in you. This isn't the kind of fruit that fades with seasons or shrinks under pressure. What's coming forth from your life will be undeniable, not because it's loud, but because it's lasting. It will not appear gradually the way others expect, it will emerge suddenly. There will be a shift so swift that those who have watched you endure will be left in awe. But they won't know that this fruit didn't come from one moment of effort, it was formed through continual surrender. Every unseen act of faith, every decision to choose me over comfort, every sacrifice that felt small to the world but monumental to your soul, it's all rising now in harvest. And this harvest won't just benefit you, it will nourish others. I've made your life into fertile soil, and now I'm causing it to become a garden for others who are starving for something real. Them come up because of what you built, but because of what I grew through you. This fruit will carry fragrance of intimacy, of resilience, of mercy, of wisdom that only comes from being planted deep. You didn't try to manufacture growth, you gave me space to breathe through you. And now, the supernatural will begin to touch your natural. Things that once felt stuck will start to move. Dreams that appeared dormant will awaken. Prayers that you laid down long ago will begin to take shape with fresh life. You've entered into a divine acceleration, not the kind driven by striving, but by alignment. And I want you to know, this isn't a reward you earned, it's the natural result of spiritual maturity. You didn't focus on fruit, you focused on being rooted. And because of that, what blossoms now won't collapse in storms. It won't depend on people's opinions. It will require endless effort to maintain. Because it's not manufactured, it's organic. My hand is upon it. My breath is in it. My spirit is moving through it. And child, this is only the beginning. Don't be surprised when doors open without your knocking. Don't be shocked when favor finds you without you trying to earn it. Don't resist when I place you in rooms you didn't campaign to enter. This is me establishing the outward expression of everything you allowed me to build within. I am not done. I am just now revealing what's been forming. Let me lead it. Let me guide it. Let me keep it pure. Because what I'm doing now is no longer hidden, and it carries a purpose far greater than appearance. This fruit will testify not of your effort, but of your surrender. While others relied on approval to feel secure, you chose to walk alone with me. You didn't ask for claps. You didn't need anyone to understand what I was doing in you. You weren't chasing recognition, you were chasing obedience. That choice marked you as mine in a way few ever allow themselves to be marked. I watched you turn away from platforms that offered quick attention just to stay hidden in my presence. You allowed me to strip away the applause of man so that the sound of my voice would be the only affirmation you followed. I saw the moments you were overlooked, the seasons when your faithfulness was invisible to everyone but me. And I took note. You didn't force open doors, I was the only one you looked to. You weren't motivated by the opinions of people because your identity was anchored in my truth. That kind of confidence doesn't come from ego, it comes from intimacy. It's not loud or flashy. It's quiet. It's stable. It's rooted in a relationship that doesn't require performance to be sustained. You were willing to be misunderstood. You stayed committed when others questioned your path. You kept trusting when the only reward was my nearness. That choice has shaped you into someone I can use without limit, because your foundation isn't built on popularity, it's built on presence. And now, because you didn't rely on others to define your purpose, I will define you openly. Not to elevate you above others, but to show what I can do with someone who refuses to be distracted by external validation. This next season won't come with constant applause, but it will come with authority. Because when your heart doesn't crave approval, I can trust you with influence. You won't bend to pressure. You won't order truth to stay liked. You won't dilute my message to gain acceptance. You'll speak what I give you with clarity, compassion, and boldness, not because you want to be seen, but because you've seen me. That's what makes the difference. You passed a test that many never even recognize, walking with me when no one else sees the path. And now I am preparing to make public what was proven in private. You will move forward not because people endorse you, but because I have sent you. You will carry my words not as someone who learned them, but as someone who lived them. And when people ask what qualifies you, your life will speak for itself. It will speak of nights in prayer, of silence endured without bitterness, of sacrifices made in secret, of decisions no one celebrated, but I honored. You won't know the price, but they'll witness the power. And you won't need to explain, because what I've placed on you will be undeniable. You walked away from needing applause, and now I will cause your life to speak without a stage. When everything around you grew quiet and the people you once leaned on drifted away, it wasn't abandonment, it was alignment. I wasn't punishing you by pulling you into solitude. I was preparing you to hear me without interference. Too many voices had started to cloud your discernment.